Oh, as always, the best stuff is off air. We're just having a talk. One comment that Mutu made was about the promised land and the image that he had of Australia, or Australia's image, and the difference between when he arrived. So I'd really like to throw that open to you. I'd like you to paint us a picture of what your perception of Australia was from Africa, from Kenya or South Africa.
Just a quick going back from Africa. Mm-hmm. We look at the West, not just Australia, as the promised land. Mm-hmm. Now, this is the place to be. This is where dreams come true. You get a good job. You can earn lots of money. It's as though money is actually hanging on trees, like fruits, just waiting to be picked. But long before this happens, for example, in primary school, I had a good knowledge about Australia. The eucalyptus, the macadamia, the
How
Aboriginal
come?
people.
Why did you?
This is through schooling.
Oh, okay.
Through this, yeah. But as I grew up, of course, my image of the West was shaped by the movies and the TV series programs that you see, The Home and Away, The Bold and the Beautiful, and all that, and the glossy travel magazines that you see. And these things paint a glossy picture of the West. It's like the utopia. So you really want to be here if you come from any third world country. Then when you arrive here, you realize, oops, this is just half the story. Not everybody can live on Palm Beach. Some have to live in the south and west. And that is what I call in the book sort of a cultural shock. You realize that this is not everything to the...
So what things in particular do you think didn't live up to the expectation?
I won't want to throw the spanner in the works, but a few things do not add up. You see a society in disharmony. It's not everybody's happy. I can clearly point one thing out, that, for example, even though Africa has got its own problems, people are generally happier.
Yeah. Oh, you would say that. It's an interesting comment, because a lot of people who go traveling often say, like, they'll go somewhere like Thailand or lots of different countries, and they'll come back and they'll say, God, I don't know why they don't seem to have our money, but they all seem happy.
Definitely,
it's a commonly quoted experience, and particularly if you're coming from we sometimes don't realise how hectic things are. I mean, Australia's got this image of laid back, but actually people work fairly hard, don't they? People actually knuckle down here, and so I suppose, is that it? Do you think is the work ethic different here, or the time? You mentioned time.
Yeah, the work ethic is different, but I think there's also something else in terms of people more being sort of more inward looking. For example, let me give an example. In Africa, you would know the neighbors and almost the whole village.
Yeah,
I really had to knock on my door's neighbor in Bexley to introduce myself and say, this is this is who I am.
Did they set the dog on you? Oh my God, the neighbours come to say hello. I've lived next to... No, I don't want to mention my neighbour, but I know that in England, so you could actually, in London, you could live in London and know nobody. You could literally get on the tube every day. I did. I commuted on the tube for years and years. Never see the same person twice. I was very lucky. I did speak to my neighbour. I lived in a cul-de-sac at one stage. That was actually very good. I knew about 4 or 5 of my neighbours. But every other place I lived, I didn't know who was in the house next door when I was in an apartment in London. Just never saw them until they made so much noise I had to call the police out. But things like that. The police knew everybody. No, but so you think that the community spirit... Can I ask a question, though? Sydney's a big city.
Oh, yes.
And by Australian standards, it's enormous. So is it something to do with the culture here, or is it more to do with the fact that you're in a very dense urban environment? Or did you find that in Kenya you were in a dense urban environment there, or not?
In terms of dense urban environment, I would think if I understand the word dense here, in terms of the density of population per square meter, Nairobi would have more people per square meter walking about than Sydney.
And the people still know their neighbours and everybody?
Not in the city. But
there you go.
But these people will be greeting one another and smiling.
Yeah. Well, they do that in Australia, because when I first arrived here from the UK, I moved to Bayview, which is up on the Pittwater, and I was walking down the road. This was literally I just arrived, gone to a youth hostel, then I found a house, and I rented a house, and I'm walking down the road, and I walked past somebody, and she just smiled me in the face and said, hello.
Oh, great.
And I just went, she confusing me with somebody? I was really shocked. I was like, it's like somebody hit me in the head with a hammer. I thought, why is she talking to me?
I'll tell you a story.
That was a culture shock for me, I can tell you. Because in London or anywhere else in Britain, I think people just wander by and ignore you.
I'll tell you one short story. In Arlwood, I was just busy doing my own things, and I met this old lady at the crossing, at the traffic lights. Mm-hmm. And I said, hello, and we started talking about the weather. She was Macedonian. So we talked about the weather, and we laughed about this. I laughed about that. And before the light was green for us to cross. And we crossed on the other side, and we were still talking. And as we parted, she said something very interesting. She said, for 40 years in this country, nobody said hello to me on the street, and we've never been engaged in such a hearty discussion. And that was 3, 4, 5 minutes.
Wow, there you go. So you probably changed somebody's life. Well, there's a tip then. Maybe we should all go about our day today and just say hello to somebody, just have a random conversation, and hope we don't get locked up for it.
Yeah.
No, it's a very good point of view. I think you raise an interesting point there. Okay, how can people get hold of your book?
People can get the book directly online, either from the publisher, who is bookpaul.com, or amazon.com, or if they go to my website, www.theweather-proofsalesman, they'll be able to get a book from me if they want another signed copy.
Is it better to buy it off you directly? Because I'm one of the very lucky few that have a signed edition.
It depends with where they are and whatever they prefer. If they prefer another signed edition, they can get it from me.
But if you Google the Weatherproof Salesman, you always come up because you were interviewed on the SBS and things like that. So you're coming up. If you just go in Google and put the Weatherproof Salesman,
it'll come up.
It will come up.
And in our website, we are offering a free chapter. So if somebody is thinking, is this book for me, not for me, they can go in there, download the free chapter, have a read, and then decide whether it's a good book.
Seems like a good idea. I actually read a chapter of a book recently called Currency Wars, which is a big one. And a lot of people are doing that, aren't they?
No, absolutely.
Do you find that's a good thing, Dave?
Yeah, all the time. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We'll have one more song. We'll come back, and then we'll talk a little bit about book printing and also maybe some help for people who are looking to self-publish.